Hey, welcome back to episode 37. Fuck. 38. 38 of the Cellarcast. Okay, I paused and unpaused. I was like, should I just re-record that? Nah. I heard something about, like, YouTube doesn't like it when you swear in the first 30 seconds of a video. I don't know. I don't care. It's like the first time I've actually said the wrong one. We're on 38. And I looked back at the last episode. I'm like, okay, 37 was the last episode. But the number 37 was in my head, so that's the one that I said. And not 38. I didn't do the mental math. Anyway. I forgot to write that on the thing. I should talk about that. We don't have any comments this week. There were no questions last time. But I do want to talk a little bit about, not a game, but, the Batman. So Kat and I saw The Batman last week. There was an interview. Okay. There was a really cute interview with Robert Pattinson and Zoe Kravitz. They got interviewed by LaPlus Darkness from HoloLive. It was really cute. It was really cute. Because they both, like, obviously don't know what a VTuber is. And they're just in this kind of, like, shocked, kind of amused state where they're like, what the fuck? Robert Pattinson has this perpetual, like, dude, this is crazy, like, smile on his face, and Zoe Kravitz is just like, just like, every time LaPlus says something in English, Kravitz is like, she gets like a renewed smile, like LaPlus goes like, thank you, and Kravitz just, it's really cute. Anyway, yeah, we saw the Batman, because, funny story, Kat and her mom went to see it the other day, and they had a weird thing where the ticket machine accidentally gave them tickets they're seeing it on like a Saturday, but the machine gave them tickets for like a Wednesday showing. And so they got to the theater, and there were people already in their seats, and they were like, oh, our tickets say Wednesday, so they just kind of like, I guess like the person who checked the ticket just didn't realize. So they just like sat down in like the corner, like the only corner that no one was sitting in. And she was like, hey, so I have these like 2 tickets for like a showing on Wednesday. So we went to go see it together. And, I really enjoyed it. Part of what's nice, because again, I don't watch any movies. The only movies that I watch is what she puts on for me, or what she takes me to go see. So that means that, like, I don't really pay attention to movies unless it's unless it comes up in like my sphere, right? Unless it's either so funny that it ends up like penetrating my YouTube recommendations. Funny in an unintentional way. Or it's on Half in the Bag. Or, you know, if Red Letter Media talks about it. So that's like the only way. I've only seen, let's see, which Marvel movies have I seen? I watched Iron Man when I was 8. Or something. I watched Thor on a plane a few years later. And then I watched Infinity War. and then Endgame. Without having seen anything in between. But I kind of knew what was going on, literally just because of watching the Red Letter Media Half in the Bag videos on every Marvel movie. So, and hey, I still managed to enjoy it. I can enjoy something going in. Oh my god, I can enjoy something. If I know that I'm going into something that has like an established thing, or like, you know, it's a sequel or it's in a series, I can have the benefit of the doubt of like, okay, I'm just gonna have to do a lot of assuming because they assume that I've seen the previous things, right? The movie is gonna assume that I've seen the other movies, so I'm not gonna do, or I'm not gonna be like, who's this guy? Who's that guy? Who's this person? Unlike the family that we saw, I think Infinity War with. It was Infinity War or Endgame. I don't remember which one, but I went to go see it. My friends took me to it, and the entire time there was this family like literally right next to me. I was sitting at the end. It was like 4 or something of us. I was sitting at the end, and next to me was this family. Oh my god. Okay, so like the kid had obviously seen like they had like 2 kids and like a little daughter or something. They were all really, really little. And the oldest boy, who couldn't have been, I don't know, maybe 3rd grade, something like that, had obviously like seen every Marvel movie. His dad hadn't seen any of them. It was Endgame. Because I remember he kept asking questions. This is literally the last movie in a thing that's been going for like 10 years with like 20 installments. And so the dad has the nerve to keep asking his son who every character is and what their relationship is to each other. And he's like, who's that? Who's that? Who's that person? And he's like, oh, that's Captain Marvel. That's Captain Marvel. Oh, really? What does she do? And just the whole time in my ear. Right next to me. And they're munching on popcorn. And at some point, the little kid gets bored, and so the mom takes out a fucking iPad for him to go on. Oh my fucking god. The best part of that viewing experience was the action scenes, because it was loud enough that I couldn't freaking hear those people next to me. The whole like last 30 minutes, I was like, oh, I can just ignore this fucking family next to me and this dad. Anyway, so the nice thing about going to see movies with her is that I know nothing about them, so I get to go in basically totally blind. Like, yeah, I'd heard about them. I knew obviously that there was a new Batman that had Robert Pattinson, and I think I'd seen some of the trailer or something, but I'd honestly forgotten pretty much all of it. Until there were points in the movie where I was like, oh, I kind of remember that from the trailer. That's it, though. There's like 2 shots that I remember from the trailer, and that's basically it. I heard nothing. I didn't see any reviews. I didn't hear anyone talking about it, except for people talking about Zoe Kravitz. That's, yeah. That was the only contact I had with the movie. So I basically got to go see it, knowing basically nothing about it, except for the fact that it was like 3 hours long. It is 3 hours long. And I think I like it. I actually think I like it quite a bit. I liked it a lot, actually. It was 3 hours, so okay, I say I think, because having a movie that's that long, it took me like a couple days, actually, to like really process through all the stuff from it. Just because there was so much. And a good sign for me is that I remember walking out of Last Jedi, which is a movie that goes on for like 30 minutes longer than it has to. And I had this kind of feeling about like, what do I think about that? And the more I started thinking about it, I was like, I don't think I liked that. I don't think I liked that at all, actually. And then so after I watched The Batman, the more I think about it, the more I like it, which is a good sign for me. pardon me. The more I think about it, the more I think of things that I really liked. It's basically, to sum it up succinctly, it's basically an action crime thriller with Batman. That's basically what it is. The Riddler. Fuck, I feel like if I'm explaining this for people who are, I feel like I'm the odd one out for not knowing the premise of the movie. The Riddler is the villain, which is nice to have not the Joker for once. The Riddler is the villain, and he's basically like a serial killer / domestic terrorist. And Batman, it's a younger Batman. I think they show at one point, pretty early on, he has like a notebook that says like the Gotham Project year 2, I think. So he's only like 2 years in to his Batman thing. In fact, I don't even think they never call him Batman until I don't even remember. Do they call him it at the end? I don't even remember. They don't call him the Batman. And I think that actually the movie is basically about him doing a bunch of detective stuff and uncovering the Riddler's mystery. Fuck you, Riddler. And through that, there's a bunch. I'm trying to do this without spoiling as much because I really did enjoy it. I'd recommend people to go see it if you can. If you have a spare like 5 hours. Basically uncovering a bunch of secrets that kind of like cause him to go through a significant change. He definitely starts the movie one way and ends a very different way. Or like he develops a lot over the course of the film. And he has to reevaluate things he believes and all that. It's actually like, I really like Robert Pattinson's Batman. I really do. It was one of these things where it's like, fuck, we're getting another Batman. But he does it. He does it really well, I think. He does a good job playing like a younger, very intense, like, he isn't like grizzled, right? He's very like intense and idealistic, and he's really caught up in his own thing. And Robert Pattinson's, his facial acting is great. I want to say that, like, for most of oh, people are walking around. For most of the movie, he's doing kind of like a so, like, in terms of like emotional range, he isn't going all over the place, really. Like, there's not a ton, but it makes sense for the kind of character he is. And there's little moments, especially in like the latter half of the film, where he starts to like, there's like one specific scene where he's having a conversation with someone who's telling him something that is very shocking to him and very upsetting, and he's keeping this really like intense, like stone cold kind of face. And then, but there's just these little details, like these little micro expressions, like his eyebrows like furrow for a moment, and he just kind of glares a little bit, and it's just like a little flash as he just hears something, and I'm like, wow, I can totally. He's very striking, I would say, what the performance was. That's how I found it, at least. It's 3 hours long, which some people might find too long. I didn't mind. I feel like it at least justified the runtime. It's a very dense film. It doesn't... I'm sure you could break it down into like a traditional 3-act structure, but it's extremely there's a lot of stuff that happens. It feels like almost like a season of like a television show, like a 10 episode season or something like that, or like a 12 issue miniseries or something like that, or of a comic book. As far as I know, it's not based off of any particular storyline from the comics. And speaking of, I've heard, now I haven't read too many Batman comics, but I have heard that it is I've heard it called very comic accurate, and I can say at least that it's the most grounded Batman movie, or it's the most like gritty feeling in a good way. In a good way. There's like a real sense of like grime. Okay. If you liked the Arkham games, I think you'd probably at least really like at least the tone and the atmosphere in the movie. Everything's really fucking dirty and gross, and it reminds me of living in Chicago. And it's always like, feels like it's always raining, and it's dark. A lot of the movie, it could have almost been a black and white film for how much it does with like shadow and light. Like some of the daytime scenes, there's very like, the few that there are, it's very gray and overcast, and the lights are really like, the light coming through the windows is really blown out, so the shadows are super harsh and deep. There's this interesting like directorial choice, or an editing choice, whatever you want to call it, whatever it would be. There's a lot of scenes, especially the ones of him being Bruce Wayne, being in his civilian identity, where it might be more of like that's more pardon me, more of like a daytime thing, but it'll be shot where Pattinson's like in near the center of the frame, and he's in like very sharp focus, and then immediately around him everything is a little out of focus, but there's kind of like a slightly like it's like a slight blur, and it's not like a lens flare effect, but it feels like the light diffracting. Like there's a bit of that kind of like rainbow, almost sort of like ring or like halo around the point of focus. And it gives this very sort of like dreamy sort of feeling to those scenes, or you almost get the sense that like it might have been something to like or like a way of showing that he's extremely alert or extremely like sharp, in any situation or something like that. He's the only one in focus. It also kind of like makes it, again, because he is so intense, he has such like a strong screen presence. I think that might have been like a visual way to bring that out like even more. I thought that was neat. It's the most, I really like the bat suit in this one. It's the most like, it feels, material wise, it feels like, it doesn't feel like the previous kind of like rubber sort of suits. It feels like it feels like steel plating or metal plating and Kevlar and like heavy rubber. It feels very like heavy duty. So like when he's moving around, it feels like chunky. It's a very chunky bat suit. So like when he's moving around, he looks big and powerful. I think Pattinson said that like he felt powerful wearing it, because he looks like he could just throw a lot of weight around. It also helps. Talking about the groundedness of the movie, I really liked the fight choreography for the most part. I like that he takes a lot of hits. That also is like part of like the straight up like power of the like the suit, that feeling, right? There's like a scene, like the first scene that he really shows up in is when he just like he saves a guy from being mugged by a gang of thugs, and he's fighting like 6 dudes and he wins, but he gets hit like a lot, and he just kind of keeps going. And there's a lot of scenes where something like that happens, like he gets hit and then he just keeps going. And like the feeling, like the striking fear into his enemies in that kind of a way. Like he's so durable and he hits really hard. I liked that. I like that a lot. I like that kind of it felt almost like there's some scenes from like Old Boy. Old Boy is like a great example of that, where just like the main character is like a fucking super action guy, but he also gets so fucked up because he's fighting like a dozen guys in a hallway and that kind of shit. Look up if you haven't seen Old Boy, maybe this would spoil the movie or one of like the best scenes, but the hallway fight scene from Old Boy is like legendary. It kind of reminds, some of the fights in this kind of reminded me at least of the fact that like I like it when characters are strong but still kind of vulnerable in that way. Like it's cool to see someone with like a ton of technique and gumption and like and clever like ingenuity with like what they use to fight, but then they also, there's like a risk. They're not like they don't just like wipe the floor with everyone. I really like that kind of dynamic. I don't know, it adds stakes. There's a lot of the stakes in the movie. I think that's part of what helps it, is that everyone feels like they could just get really fucked up at any point. And they just kind of keep, the stakes just kind of keep like ramping up progressively throughout the plot. Like it starts with like this intriguing little mystery of, you know, why has this person been killed? And then it just starts escalating and escalating and escalating, and by the end it's like fucking insane, but you've had 3 hours to get to that point, and it was logically built up. You were led to this big climax, which again still feels very grounded, I would say. Anything else I want to talk about the Batman? I really liked Paul Dano as the Riddler. Again, don't want to spoil anything, but it's so hard because like there's a thing that I really like about his performance. I'll just go say you can skip to I'm going to say that like you can skip to whatever the next section is on the chapters, because I'll just talk about it freely. This is a spoiler point, I guess. Just skip to the next thing and I'll wrap it up. The Riddler is okay. I was like, what do I enjoy about this characterization of the Riddler? And then I realized, oh, it's because he's a chuny. he's a chunibyo serial killer. No one knows what the fuck chuny means. A chuny is that guy you knew in like middle school or maybe high school who watched like a little too much anime and kind of liked to role play as if he was an actual anime character, and he tried to like act like anime. Basically, it's people who they're kind of they have it's a type of immaturity where they take themselves too seriously and are really into this like fantasy of them being way cooler than they actually are. And that's the Riddler. That's him. So like he is very smart. he's a very intelligent guy, and he is like you know, here's the thing, he's very intelligent, and he's also crazy. He's a nutcase. But he also, like, clearly, he also wants, despite being that, it's like he wants to play the part of a guy, of the crazy genius guy. Like, he's leaning into it a little too hard. And there's a point, like, when Batman is, like, interrogating him at Arkham, and you realize this guy's a fucking geek. He's a fucking dork. And he's also like a mass murderer. I really enjoyed how the entire movie, the Batman name doesn't come up until I don't even know if it comes up at the end. But he's only ever referred to as Vengeance, because that's like what he symbolizes. I really liked how the arc that he basically goes through is that he starts off with a very black and white kind of understanding of the world, and he goes through all of these revelations where he's kind of forced to reckon with the fact that people and things that he trusted and believed in were actually incredibly corrupt, including his own father, who he was like his idol, basically. And he kind of has to grapple with the fact that people are complicated, and also that his kind of single-minded, vengeful kind of attitude and philosophy actually produced more harm than good. He realized basically he was symbolizing the wrong things, that it wasn't really what he wanted to be. Because I really liked the scene, like that scene where he is interrogating Riddler, and he basically realizes that the Riddler like idolizes him, and he never wanted Batman to get hurt. He was just hurting other people, which you could, I think, like reflecting back on, I'm like, yeah, he never really sets up a situation, I think, where Batman is actually in danger, because he actually wants to work with him. He thinks that they're on the same page, because that's how he's interpreted Bruce Wayne's like message. And he has to kind of like he has this oh shit moment, especially like at the climax, like the big climax scene, where one of the guys who's like Riddler's like little groupies, his like fanboys, he says he has the same like I'm vengeance thing. He's like, oh, he has this realization, because when he's interrogating Riddler, he has this kind of like we're nothing alike sort of thing. And then he realizes, even if, you know, deep down I'm not like him, what I'm doing is my actions might not reflect what I actually want, and I'm not having the real effect that I want. So that's like there's like a pretty on the nose baptism imagery where he falls into the water and then he comes back out and then he leads people to safety. I really like that scene actually visually, because he's got this flare. And he's literally leading people through the darkness, and it's kind of this symbolic rebirth. I mean, that's what that is, you know. It's not very subtle. He literally falls into water and comes back out. Like rebirth imagery of like now and then there's like a narration that kind of implies that now he's realized that he has to represent something more than just like revenge, and he has to aspire to higher ideals if he wants to actually improve things. I like that a lot. I thought that was a neat type of Batman arc that we haven't really seen before in film. I also really like how much detective work he does. He does a lot of detective work, which is something that's generally kind of ignored by other movies, just because I feel like a lot of screenwriters aren't exactly sure like how to convey that without making it like a mystery or something. But I thought this was great for just like a grounded story. That like, yeah, Batman is in the comics, he's the world's greatest detective. He's a super genius, and he puts these things together, and he has this like intuition and knack for finding clues, and that other people can't spot. And it's really fun. I don't know, it's fun to like follow along with this mystery. And there's a decent amount of action to keep it going. There's a lot of interesting little twists. There's an ungodly intense car chase scene. I was like, holy shit, oh, Jesus Christ. I thought that was cool. The performances overall are great, not just from Pattinson, but I really like the guy who plays Penguin. Wah, 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 I'm the Penguin. I really liked him. Who the fuck played Penguin? Who plays him in... Colin Farrell? Really? Really? Well, he puts on a pretty good accent, as far as I can tell. Huh. Wouldn't have guessed. Would not have guessed. Wait, is it who I'm thinking of? Yeah, this is who I'm thinking of, I think. He's from Ireland, yeah. Or is it Farrell? Farrell, I don't know. Oh yeah, I can totally see it. Good, really good makeup for that, then. Anything else to say on the Batman? I don't know, it is a 3-hour movie. I fucking love the whole sequence at the memorial. Dude, that sequence is so good. That is such a cool, like... I was literally on the edge of my seat. I was like, what the fuck is going to happen? That, and then the scene it leads into at the police station is amazing. Like, I love the way that the police station looks. It's just fucking dingy and dark. And, like, not dark, but, like, dim. Depressing and gray. See where he's, like, running through the hallways, and everyone's like, oh, what the fuck? What the fuck? Is it Batman? I really like that. Yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed it a lot. I don't really give scores to movies, but I'll give it a recommendation if you're interested. I feel like even if you even just have like a general knowledge of Batman, you could enjoy it, you know? You don't even have to be that interested in like the Batman lore. There's no connection to any other movie. It's a standalone Batman story, essentially. All you need, if you're curious about, if it sounds interesting, of just like a thriller detective story with Batman that has some pretty cool action and a really oppressive dark atmosphere, and some really good performances, and you don't mind a 3-hour movie, I would highly recommend. It's good. I'm gonna give it, it's good. If we were... There is like a sequel tease at the end. But if this was... If this was the only Pattinson Batman movie that we got, I'd be happy. Because it's good. I'm content with that. But hey, if there's another one, I'd be down. So, yeah, good on ya. Good job, guys. You did it. Please just make standalone movies. Please just Please just make standalone movies from this point on. Anyway, what the fuck else do I want to talk about? Oh, we're gonna have, yep, guys, it's about that time. It's about that time for the Blizzard block. Uh-huh. So, I thought that it was over. No. So, this one comes to us from... Oh, I haven't done my stretches. I haven't done stretches this morning. That was nice. Kyle Orland of Ars Technica report. The SEC is investigating Activision Blizzard investors for insider trading. So let's jump into it. The Securities and Exchange Commission is investigating 3 investors for alleged massive insider trading just ahead of Microsoft's January announcement of merger plans with Activision Blizzard, according to a Wall Street Journal report. Film and music executive David Geffen, broadcasting executive Barry Diller, and Diller's stepson Alexander von Furstenberg collectively spent over $108 million to buy $40 a share. How do you read this? $40 a share call options of Activision Blizzard stock on January 14th, according to the report. On January 18th, when the Microsoft merger plans were announced, those shares rose 26% to $82.31, representing an unrealized gain of about $60 million for the 3 investors. The value of those options could increase further if the merger goes through at Microsoft's proposed per share price of $95. So, I am not an expert on stocks or the stock market or anything like that. Now, this is options, so it's not the same thing. But luckily, my dad used to be a professional options trader. So I did ask him about it and how it works. Essentially, my memory of this is really bad. I'm bad at explaining this. So I'm going to look it up. What is an option in stocks? I'm going to look it up just to assist me. An option is a contract giving the buyer the right, but not the obligation, to buy or sell an underlying asset, which is a stock or index, at a specific price on or before a certain date. So basically, an option, you are buying or you are signing, it's a contract that gives you the option to buy or sell, depending on, I think, whether or not you own it, I think, and a stock, essentially, in this case, at a specific price. And it lasts to a certain date. So the way he explained it to me is basically, you're signing a contract that where your hope is that, or at least, assuming that insider knowledge is not involved, you're betting that the price will go up, or that you will make money off of it. So if you sign the option, and you wait until basically it has an expiration date where it becomes worthless, where you don't get anything out of it. So the fact that they just so happen to sign to what's the terminology? Buy, yeah. The fact that they just so happen to buy $108 million worth of stock 4 days before the announcement is very fishy. So Diller says, broadcasting executive Barry Diller, It was simply a lucky bet. We acted on no information of any kind from anyone. It is one of those coincidences. Which is like, Diller and Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick served together on the Coca-Cola board of directors. Though that company announced last week that Kotick would be leaving his position on the board later this year. Well, I'm sure that means that they don't talk to each other at all outside of that. Kotick had been talking to Microsoft about a potential acquisition since November, according to subsequent reporting and an SEC filing outlining the timeline. JP Morgan, which organized the private stock option sale with the 3 investors, is currently required to report evidence of potential market manipulation as part of a $1 billion settlement it reached with the SEC in 2020. Oh, so rather recently. In September, the Wall Street Journal reported that the SEC was also investigating Activision. Okay, yeah, the discrimination thing. So are we having another investor lawsuit? Fuck, how many are we at, guys? Jesus criminy. Jesus criminy Christmas crackers. News of the insider trading investigation comes as Activision Blizzard management faces a fresh lawsuit from shareholders who allege that the proposed merger is, quote, unfair for a number of reasons. Chief among those reasons, according to the suit filed by 20 named and unnamed Activision investors and reported by Polygon, is that, quote, it appears as though the board has entered into the proposed merger to procure for themselves and senior management of the company significant and immediate benefits. Basically, what they're saying is, the investors are saying, is that you did this merger so that you could make so the board could make a bunch of money, and then you're going to ditch us. The lawsuit also alleges that Activision Blizzard leadership didn't properly set up an independent committee to evaluate the proposed merger. The merger was instead pushed by, quote, Activision insiders with potential conflicts of interest due to their ownership of large, illiquid portions of company stock, the lawsuit says. The decision to propose a merger was, quote, conducted out of the self-interest of management and was designed with only one concern in mind: to effectuate, what a good word, a sale of the company by any means possible, the lawsuit alleges. Yeah, they're trying to cut you guys loose. They're trying to cut you guys loose. Activision Blizzard has also failed to give certain financial details in a preliminary proxy statement supporting the merger, amounting to, quote, materially misleading and or incomplete statements. Uh-oh. The new lawsuit comes on top of a proposed class action filed in August. This is the first investor lawsuit in which they argue that they were economically damaged by management's decision to withhold material information about harassment and discrimination complaints. So this is the second investor lawsuit. Holy fuck. Holy cannoli. I want to mention right now, spoilers for the Batman. This just occurred to me. There's a point where they say that the Riddler has... It's really funny to hear... There's a point where the Riddler does literally like a YouTube intro. He's like, what's up, guys? And they say that he has like 500 followers, which makes me a bigger influencer than the Riddler, which is really funny. Anyway, yeah, this is really funny. They're saying, hey, what about us? What about us? Oh man, this merger's so funny. I can't tell if Bobby Kotick is a genius or if he's just freaking the fuck out and he's just, get this company off of me! Get this company off of me! It's so, like, it seems like it was kind of like a quick, dirty, he was like, fuck, I gotta get out of here. Let's do a merger. Hey, Microsoft. And then he just filed this quick and dirty agreement so that he could make as much money as possible and jump ship and leave the investors high and dry, potentially. Now, I'm not sure if, like, the investors are gonna benefit from the merger. I mean, I'd assume they would. But it seems like, I don't know, maybe I wouldn't be surprised if this is like maybe like just a spiteful lawsuit. Because again, the first one they signed where they were like, hey, what the fuck, you didn't tell us you were being investigated, from what I can tell, has still not been resolved. And might not be resolved for a while. And they might be like, hey, what the... Because, okay, if they filed that in August, and then in November, Kotick starts working out a merger so that he can, like, jump ship, they're like, hey, what the fuck? You're just trying to run away. Yeah. Funny stuff, guys. Really funny stuff. Also, yeah, I mean, the fact that Diller and Kotick are both together on the Coca-Cola board of directors. I don't like the word Coca-Cola. I don't like the way it sounds. It's really grating on my ears for some reason. Coke is fine. It's okay. I don't like Coca-Cola. It's too... It just, I don't know, it hurts my ears for some reason. I don't like the way it sounds. Coca-Cola, it's too soft. It's too soft. It's too many C's for how soft they feel. I'm not sure how to describe it. It's too many K sounds, but it's too smooth sounding. I don't know if that makes sense. Fuck. Anyway, the fact that they serve together is really, really suspicious. Let's see, Barry Diller. Who's this guy? Barry Diller. Chairperson of IAC, Expedia Group, and founded the Fox Broadcasting Company. Who the fuck is Egon von Furstenberg? Wait, isn't that the other guy who's in the lawsuit? Wait, no, what the fuck is that? Wait, which Furstenberg is it? Diller's stepson. Is that his stepson's dad? Holy crap. Prince Egon von Furstenberg was a socialite banker. Look up this guy. Look this guy up. Egon von Furstenberg. Socialite banker, fashion and interior designer, and member of the German aristocratic family Furstenberg. What the fuck? In 1969, he married fashion designer Diane von Furstenberg, with whom he had 2 children, Prince Alexander Egon and Princess Tatiana Desiree. Holy shit. This guy is not real. These people don't feel real. There's a result for him on gayinfluence.com. Gayinfluence.blogspot.com. Damn, alright. Anyway, so his son... okay, anyway, his son is involved, and also, who's the other guy? David Geffen. David Geffen. An American business magnate, producer, and film studio executive, Geffen co-created Asylum Records, Geffen Records, DGC, and DreamWorks SKG in 1994. Okay. Alright then. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there was like a... if there was some tricky, shady business going on between the 4 of them. People talk to people. Kotick is... he's not the most upstanding guy, you know? Anyway. Hey, speaking of Blizzard... and only not Blizzard, but tangentially related, 8 more women allege sexism at PlayStation, intensifying lawsuit. Okay. This one comes from Axios.com, courtesy of Stephen Todillo. So, back in November, there was a lawsuit filed against, basically there was a gender discrimination lawsuit filed against PlayStation. There's a woman named Emma Majo, or Majo, I'm not sure. She says, I'm going to say Majo. She said it was basically wrongful termination after complaining about sexism. And then she also filed it on behalf of all women who have worked for the company. So is that is that a class action, I guess? So last month, Sony denied her claims, asking a court to toss the lawsuit over the lack of specific facts. They said Majo fails to identify a single policy, practice, or procedure at PlayStation that allegedly formed the basis of any widespread intentional discrimination or had a discriminatory impact on women. That's what their lawyers said. In response, Majo's attorney filed yesterday, it was on March 9th. Basically, in response, her lawyer filed statements from 8 women, including a current PlayStation employee. Let's see the details. The women describe a range of behaviors across multiple US-based PlayStation offices, including demeaning comments, unwelcome advances, a lack of attention paid to their work or ideas, and, most frequently, a sense that it was harder for women to be promoted in the company. Marie Harrington, a veteran of Sony Online Entertainment and Sony PlayStation for more than 16 years, cited a lack of women considered for senior roles during, quote, calibration sessions. I don't know what I'm not dialed into the corporate world enough to know what a calibration session is. But I don't know. It's like an interview period. During one session, she said, only 4 women were considered for promotions compared to nearly 70 men. She described hearing comments about female candidates' family lives that weren't made about male candidates. So, yeah, when I heard... It's always like one of these things, it's like, okay, well, is this being perceived? There's like a lot of factors that could be going on. 4 to 70 is a pretty intense ratio. Pretty severe ratio. For what I'm assuming... It's like a corporate setting. So I'm not assuming that there's like a necessary like huge imbalance of women to men. If it was like 60, 70, or even like, 50, 55, 70. If that was like, that's like, that would be like understandable if you had an imbalance, right? Of people, of who was in the workplace. Even if there's like, if it's like the workplace is like 40% women to 60% men, 4 to 70 is pretty wild. Also, comments about female candidates' family lives that weren't made about male candidates. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a... pardon me. There was a slant there, some kind of a... I don't know exactly what kind of comments, but it doesn't necessarily surprise me. So it goes on to kind of talk about how Harrington linked her... she emailed her superiors about bullying from like women... two women, bullying that women were receiving from men at the company. And in that email, she linked to a New York Times article about a similar thing happening at Nike. And she said, quote, "Can we address this before PlayStation has its own national news article?" Another woman cited a third-party study that found a great imbalance in terms of employee distribution in her team. I'm not sure exactly what that means. But like, hey, it's a third-party study. I don't know if that's correct third-party study. It's part of the case, at least. It's kind of vague, but... Okay. I'm getting a scam call. Anyway. I believe Sony is not equipped to appropriately handle toxic environments, wrote Cara Johnson, a former program manager, in her statement. She noted she was aware of 10 women who'd left her office in Rancho Bernardo, California, in the 4 months preceding her departure, assigned to her of systemic problems. Yeah, 10 women in 4 months. I don't know what the rate of like male dropouts is, but like if it was literally like only women who were dropping out, maybe there is a problem, you know? We're building a case here. Her declaration includes a letter she shared with female employees when she left the company in January 2021, citing repeated attempts to notify superiors about gender bias, alleged discrimination against pregnant women, and resistance from a senior man in HR to act on these accounts. Sony did not reply to a request for comment about the new assertions by Press Time. What's next? Yesterday's filing met a deadline for replies to Sony's attempt to drop the suit. Okay, yeah. A hearing on that request won't happen until next month at the earliest. So this is going to be a developing story. And now so there's some things when you obviously jumping from the Blizzard thing to this seems like, I feel like what everyone would say is like, well, you know, it's still bad, but it's not as bad. I think that cases like this are important to talk about because how do I word this exactly? This is an environment. I would not be surprised if the Blizzard of 15 years ago resembled this. Right? So like company cultures don't just like pop up out of nowhere, right? They're a product of the people who are there, and like a culture, like think about what a culture is. It's things, part of culture is like customs and social customs, right? What is okay, what's not okay. In some countries you can fucking take your shoes off when you need to take your shoes off when you go inside. Like if you try to go into like a house in Japan, you don't take off your shoes, they think that you're like a fucking serial murderer. I wear my shoes in the house all the time. I don't give a fuck. Because I'm in America. Bitch. But like that's just a difference, right? And that comes from, well, I was raised in a house where it wasn't a big deal. Really. And in Japan, you are raised in a house where it is a big deal. Probably. So like once... Okay. Bad behavior happens and it gets worse. Bad behavior is unavoidable. But how you deal with it determines what happens to it in the future. Once, if you put your foot down and you say, no, it's not how we do things here, you know? If you're 5 years old and you, I remember like my brother used to like really like getting into fights with me, my little brother, and we're about a little under 2 years apart. And I remember like sometimes he would try to do it in front of my dad. Or like when there was a time that like when he was younger, he eased up on it. He just kind of stopped doing it. But when we were at our dad's house, our mom didn't mind, or our mom didn't even really see it. My mom wasn't around to see it. So, but when my dad saw it, he was like very serious, and he was like, "Don't do that. Never hit your brother. Don't hit each other. I don't care who started it. I don't care if it was for fun. Don't do it." And he was very fucking serious about physical, hitting each other. And guess what? When we were at my dad's house, my brother never did that. When we went over to my mom's house, sometimes he would just like fucking try and tackle me. It's all about that's just like a micro example, right? That's just a tiny little anecdotal example. I'm sure there's things you can come up with in your own life that are similar. Of like, in this area, in this space, it doesn't matter what you do outside. You can do whatever you want do whatever you want outside. Be as big of a fucking creepy asshole as you want outside. I mean, don't. But when you're in here, you don't do that shit. You leave. We don't tolerate it, right? That was what Blizzard failed to clamp down on. Is they just kind of let it. It started. I'm sure it started out as something small, right? I'm sure it started out with things a lot like this of unwanted advances. Oh, they don't get reprimanded. And then guess what? All it takes is one person to come in who happens to be more predatory and more of a creeper. And then they step it up, right? They start getting more so. And then other people, oh, guess what? It wasn't working before. Reporting them to HR wasn't working before. Still not working. And it just kind of starts this gradual snowball effect. Obviously, it's a slippery slope argument, right? But I think that there's merit to it. Like, I would really not be surprised if that's how this happened at Blizzard. Like, it started small, and then one person came in, they upped the ante, and then another person comes in, they up the ante, and then slowly, people who are more reckless or just bigger shitheads realize that they don't really they get really comfortable doing whatever they want, including, oh, I can show up a little tipsy to work. No one minds. I'll show up a little more tipsy to work the next time, and then a little more, and now I'm drunk, and now I'm bringing beer to the office, and now, oh, fucking, isn't this so funny? Crazy? Kevin does fucking coke. He came in high, dude. He's making quests for World of Warcraft. And then now we're doing drugs in the office. And now, nothing was going on. Nothing bad happened when we made these unwanted advances towards women. So now when I have even less inhibitions because I'm drunk or high or whatever, I'm gonna go. I can just go around crawling under women's desks, groping them. And guess what? They don't do anything, and it gets worse and worse and worse. It's like a disease, Cultural ideas are like a disease. In many ways, a culture is like a living, breathing thing, right? It's influenced by the people there and the ideas that they introduce, and how management decides to respond to it. If you get the management is like a person, or whoever owns a body. It's a weird way of phrasing it, but you own your own body. And if you get some kind of an infection and you don't treat it, it's going to get worse and worse, and it's going to spread, and then other things could get infected, and it's going to get worse and worse until you're riddled with disease. So I think this PlayStation suit is actually an important story, because, it's not the worst thing in the world. And I've heard, this is something I've heard pretty often from women, actually, is that, them being overlooked when they propose things, or their ideas get ignored, and then all the credit gets taken, like when a guy says it verbatim. This is stuff I've heard often enough to I can believe it. And it's like, when you let things like this happen, it starts small, right? It's like a little splinter, and then it just gets worse and worse and worse. So I think stories like this are important because I think it's a chance to highlight the importance of actually having principles and acting on them. Sony should be doing something about this, right? They should be clamping down on it, because you got to have a zero tolerance policy on stuff like that. You ever seen the substitute teacher come in? There's two very different types of substitute teachers. It's just ones who come in and they're just kind of like, the class just like rolls over them. They just, steamroll them. And they just, oh, okay. And, sometimes that's just because they don't really give a fuck. They're there for like, 40 minutes, 80 minutes, however long the period is. But then sometimes you have the substitute who comes in and they don't fuck around. And they make that known from like the beginning. And you're like, okay, I can't fuck around. We can't fuck with this sub. Because he or she is not going to take that. Because you notice those class periods where the sub is kind of a pushover, it just gets worse and worse and worse, and then by the time the sub tries to step in and do something to stop it, it's too bad, and they don't have the respect, they don't have anything, they can't stop it. They can't. There's too much momentum. The chaos has too much momentum at that point, right? To stop. You gotta make it known. You gotta make a statement. Gotta make a statement of intent. Gotta make a statement of intent. And you gotta stick to it. You basically have to do your job as a leader. Right? Can't be wishy-washy. So that's why I think it's important. That's why I want to talk about it. Also, it's going to be some... Hey, maybe we'll have a... maybe we'll have a Sony segment to supplement the Blizzard block. We'll have a Sony segment. Sony section? The Sony surprise. Or PlayStation. What's like a good P one? PlayStation party? There's not a lot of good P words that have like come up with a segment name in the comments below. The PlayStation Pananza. Hey, speaking of PlayStation, they did their State of Play the other day. Now, I don't own a PlayStation, don't got a PS5, don't got none of that. But so I was like, okay, well, if something comes up that I'm interested, I'm not going to be watching it, enraptured to see what's going to be the next third-person behind-the-back shooty game with a minimalist UI aesthetic and fucking crafting system and where the character takes up like the left-hand quarter of the screen, the leftmost quarter of the screen. Sorry, the inner left quarter of the screen until you go into like focused, like your focused aim mode, in which case you zoom in and you take up the left half of the screen. I'm not waiting with bated breath to see the next one. So if anything comes up that I'm interested in, I'm probably going to see it afterwards, so I don't got to watch it live. And guess what? Something did come up that I was interested in. JoJo All-Star Battle R. Just kind of came out of nowhere. So I'm gonna give just a straight up spoiler warning again. I'm a huge JoJo fan. I've read the entire manga, watched every season of the anime. Haven't managed to watch all the Rohan stuff yet, but or some of the spin-offs. But the main actual manga and anime, I've ever consumed everything. I'm a huge JoJo fan. I'm going to be talking about stuff from all over the series, including the very end of Part 8, probably. Just as like a fair warning. So if you don't know what JoJo All-Star Battle is, it was a 3D sort of fighting. It was like a 2D, 3D kind of hybrid fighting game based on JoJo's Bizarre Adventure that released in 2013, I believe. And it was okay. All-Star Battle is, it depends on what you're looking at it as. As a JoJo game, it's pretty cool. It's got a bunch of characters. It's a pretty good roster. There's a ridiculous amount of references. They capture the visual style of JoJo really well, and they managed to make, JoJo is a series that it's been written over the course of 30 years, and Araki's artwork has changed dramatically. I mean, if you don't know what I'm talking about, literally just look up JoJo Part 1 and then JoJo Part 8, and you will see the difference. You will see, oh shit, this guy's art gets different, you know? It gets gorgeous over 30 years. And the characters, I mean, even his approach to character design is very, like, early JoJo is, like, super big muscles. Every man is built like a semi-truck. There's no women, because that's gay. And then later JoJo is, like, slim, pretty men in, like, stripper outfits. Basically. And it's very different. Like, they just look, the whole approach is different. You would almost not even be able to, you almost couldn't even tell it was the same series. But they managed to make every character look pretty, like, fit in with each other, basically. Everything looks pretty good, and the whole style of, like, capturing Araki's, like, the way he does, like, lighting and really hard shadows, and the little cross-hatching he applies to stuff. The way he draws faces with, like, really strong noses, too. That's all there. And it looks really good. There's even a bunch of, like, different alternate colors that are based off of... So one of the cool things about, like, JoJo's is that, the manga at least, is that characters do not have canonical color schemes. Because the manga is published in black and white. But when Araki does, like, either a cover, or he'll sometimes do color pages for, like, the first... every now and again, if it's, like, an occasion, he'll do, like, color... He'll color it himself, like the first few pages or something. Araki said that he doesn't actually have canonical color schemes for any of the characters. Basically what he does is, when he does color something, he colors it, he chooses the colors based off of the mood he wants the image to evoke. So sometimes, you know, a character is like, he loves blue and pink, which is like a really, surprisingly, really gorgeous. It's like a light powder blue and pink. Really gorgeous color combination. We don't see enough of. And sometimes it's like green and orange. And it'll be the same character. And it's all based on, I think he actually says that he uses like some kind of equation or math to pick the like exact color complement or contrast. It'll generally be like 3, maybe 4 colors that he chooses, and then he just colors the whole image like that. And so you get some really fascinating looking artwork. And there's a bunch of, so they did like choose base color schemes, but then they also have a bunch of alternate colors based off of different appearances that those characters have had in like colored pages and stuff. So it looks really cool. And so in the anime, the way that they adapt this is, I think that they choose, I think like they have like, every character does have like a regular color scheme, but during moments of like intensity or bizarreness, they just alter the color scheme to be something else, usually based off of like something from the manga, like an appearance that they had in the manga. So like all the colors will change, and to be like a really like weird, surreal, almost like trippy kind of palette. And then like the further you get in the show, like they apply like different textures to things, and it's really neat. Visually, just JoJo is so gorgeous. It's such a cool show visually. So I thought All-Star Battle did a great job of capturing that. I haven't been able to play it because it's like a PS3 exclusive. And you have to like import it for like $300 if you want to play it physically. And I'm pretty sure it's been delisted off of the digital store, so it's like, fuck, it's so hard to get your hands on. You basically have to emulate it at this point. From what I've heard, from what I understand, I mean, just from looking at it, as a game, it's kind of not that great. It's very stiff looking, and that's what I've heard it described as, stiff feeling. It runs at 30 FPS, which is just whack for a fighting game, whack for most games in general, but especially for a fighting game. It's really badly balanced. It has like a ton of infinites, like really easy infinites. Yeah, at a game it's very but as a JoJo thing, it's fun to like mess around with casually and just, oh, that reference to that thing, that reference to this thing. So then I think like 2-3 years later, they made a game called Eyes of Heaven, JoJo Eyes of Heaven, which is, again, both these games are made by CyberConnect 2, who made the Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm games. And Eyes of Heaven is a little closer to those in that it's like an actual 3D kind of arena brawler. And it has the weakest gameplay, but a good roster. It's the All-Star Battle roster plus like about 10 new characters, I want to say. So yeah, it's just it's okay. They tried to adapt certain things from the manga, like there's a bunch of interactable objects in the stages because, in the manga they use like all the fights are supposed to be like really crafty and clever, so they tried to like capture that with like interactable objects. It's okay. As a JoJo game, it's fun, and it has a cute kind of what if timeline crossover story where all the JoJos of the different eras meet up together to go on one big adventure, and they meet like every character in the series basically. So out of nowhere, they announce that All-Star Battle is getting essentially a re-release / remake is a little strong, but like it's like a refresh. Maybe that's what the R stands for. The R is also in the logo. The R is a rainbow, which is a subtle reference to the incredibly powerful homoerotic undertones of JoJo as a series. So, out of nowhere, they just announce, I'm going to call it a refresh of All-Star Battle with, there's a couple things to note here. Number one, it's cross-platform. Well, it's multi-platform. I don't know if it's cross-platform, but it's releasing on PS4, PS5, but also Xbox One and Series X/S, the Switch, and, lucky me, PC. Wonderful. No news. I'm assuming that this shit's not going to have rollback. You know it's not going to have rollback. But hey, at least it's coming to PC, and someone will probably mod it in at some point. Next thing that's interesting, it's a tag game now. So, so the original game, it's a 1v1 fighter. Eyes of Heaven is a 2v2. It's a 2v2 brawler where you got like two. You have teams of two, and you can like the second player can control the other character. The So the best part about that is that they had basically super moves in Eyes of Heaven. And if you had... So every character had... They were called like heat... Excuse me. They were called heat attacks. And each character had their own individual heat attack. However, if you paired the characters in certain teams, like characters who had some kind of a connection or a relation to each other, they would have unique special heat attacks that were just big references / cool things. You know, just cool things that you could, like, the characters working together in a cool way. That was probably the most interesting, coolest part of Eyes of Heaven. In ASBR, they are kind of they're basically taking it. So, okay. Number one, it's running in 60 FPS. Thank fucking God. Number two, at least I'm pretty sure it is. Number two, this is now a tag team assist-based fighter. So there's tags. Okay, I don't even know where to start with this. So there's now teams of 2. And it has, which I assume is now going to be like the regular mode of the game. There's assists and active tag. It's got active tag. Everyone's now everyone's taking the best mechanic from Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Project L is doing it, now the freaking JoJo game is doing it. Yeah, there's a scene here where... Wait, what the fuck? Wait, is it active tag? I'm looking at the trailer. Okay, so Caesar's beating up Valentine. Calls in William. Don't really get to see if they actually switch control. And then... So Poochie's beating on Polnareff. What the fuck? Wait, what? There's a defensive assist. There's a defensive tag while you're being hit. Wait, what the fuck? Yeah, no, it's literally... Okay, no, there is an assist. So it looks like... I can't tell which one is the active character, but it's Hermes and Anasui, and they're both attacking together. Okay, so Lisa's getting beat up by Valentine at around 55 seconds. Joseph comes in with just a flying kick. Hits Valentine in the goddamn head, and now he's in. Now he's like, I think he's in. It looks like he's tagged in. He's in like a stance, looks like he's tagged in. And it looks like there's like double. I can't tell if there's like, it's edited in a way where it looks like they might be doing the same like tag team supers, like the unique heat attacks. But I'm not exactly sure. So I'm actually not sure if this is active tag, and it doesn't say. It does have a section about the gameplay. So the game design of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, blah blah blah, has been overhauled from the original battle system with adjustments to the fighting tempo, and the addition of hit stops. And get this, jump dashes. There's air dashes. They put the air dashes in my goddamn JoJo game. Holy shit. I think that'll be actually really neat. It could be totally busted because the original game wasn't designed around it. But it could be dope because if it does look... The game does look just, I don't know, stiff. And it could make things at least a little more interesting. They call it overhauled. So they're very vague. They're very vague about exactly what gameplay changes there are, besides the fact that there is still... Besides the fact that there's... Yeah, all I say is the fight... Besides the fact that, like, what you can see from the trailer, which is the tag team aspect being added, also... hit stops. Okay, that'll probably help. So they use the term fighting tempo and hit stops. Hit stops is pretty clear. It's just okay. That'll just make things feel better to hit. There'll just be a little pause on hit. The fighting tempo. I don't know what that means. Maybe they might mean things have been sped up. Might mean that like timing has been adjusted. It might literally just be making the game feel a little better to control, which would be greatly appreciated. The original, yeah. I don't know if that implies a rebalance and taking out things like infinites, or rebalancing infinites, which, I don't know, it would be appreciated. Let's see. The next interesting thing about this is the game just looks fresher in general, and in addition to just the higher frame rate, it just looks better because it looks like the graphics have gotten like a significant update. 50 playable characters. So this was interesting because the original game had something like 41 characters. 41 characters. With 32 available in-game and 9 as DLC. Man, they milked the fuck out of that. So 41 characters total. And mind you, all the DLC is going to be included in this. They already said that. Except for Bao for some reason, which I'm kind of bummed about. Bao, aka Ikuro Hashizawa, is a character from a manga that Araki wrote before JoJo, and it was just like a cool little like guest appearance. His animations are badass. Yeah, that's a shame. Bao's not in there for whatever fucking reason. Or unless they're just not. He is, and they're just not saying he is, or they're just not focusing on him because it's like it's not them. Maybe they're just, I don't know. That was kind of like a fan service thing if you're really into Araki's stuff. So looking at like the roster, there's 41 characters, and so apparently they're adding 9. So not Phantom Blood. Eyes of Heaven had 52 playable characters. So obviously you would assume, oh, they're just one of the so Eyes of Heaven had 52 playable characters, but some of them are clones. So like there's two versions of Kira, which actually are like, I'm okay with that because Kira does have like 2 different kind of power sets. And they're separated by being like Yoshikage Kira and Kosaku Kawajiri. So like that makes sense. Because that's like, okay, well when he does his when he changes his identity, that does coincide with him getting, number 1, a new design, and 2, his powers. He gets some new powers. There's also 2 Poochies, regular Poochie and then New Moon Poochie. So regular Poochie is White Snake, and then New Moon Poochie is, I think he starts out Sea Moon, and then he can upgrade. He has basically an install super where he gets Made in Heaven, and then in All-Star Battle, it was just one character. It was just one Poochie. And he started off, I think he had to go through, he has to go through like 3 different phases. Like he starts out White Snake, and then you have to basically like do a move where you say the words of power to the green baby, and then it upgrades into like Sea Moon. Man, this sounds fucking insane if you don't know what I'm talking. If you've never read JoJo. And I think like once he gets Sea Moon, he can then do like a super where he like ride. He has to like do the full thing where he rises into the air, and then he transforms fully into Made in Heaven. So that's like a redundancy. So Basically, so yeah, the two Poochies from Eyes of Heaven are just gonna be one. They're just one Poochie. So there's 52. Yeah, so that's like a redundancy. So basically, Eyes of Heaven has 51 playable characters. 51 playable characters. Wait, does the original 41 count include? Yeah, so the 41. So if Bao's not in this game, if Bao's not going to be in ASBR, that means there's actually 40 characters. So they're adding 10 characters. So they're adding 10 characters to this game, to All-Star Battle. Okay. So I'm going to go on a little JoJo tear, and I'm going to just talk about what characters I think should be in the game. I'm going to nerd out, and if you don't care about JoJo, skip this part, dummy. There's chapters for a reason, baby. But if you do care, listen on. So the obvious choice is to add the characters that they added in Eyes of Heaven, because I'm pretty sure it's using the same engine, and I'm almost certain it's using the same engine. I mean, the character models look pretty similar, and so just add all the characters from Eyes of Heaven. Well, yes, but no. So there were two leaked characters for ASBR. One of them was Trish. There was like a screenshot that someone caught where Trish is one of the players, like player 2 is using Trish. So Trish was not in the original All-Star Battle, but she was in Eyes of Heaven. So you're like, oh, okay, so they're just adding the Eyes of Heaven characters, which is dope. I love Trish. Trish is awesome. And then also Prosciutto, who is on it. There's like a leaderboard screen or something like that, or like a high score screen, and one of the characters listed is Prosciutto. Prosciutto is the guy from part 5 that they fight on the train. He's the Grateful Dead user, the guy who like he releases like the gas that makes you old. He's that guy. That's a fucking random ass pick. I would have thought, honestly, that if they were going to go with another Part 5 character, the obvious choice would be Nero. Because Nero is, like, really popular, and he has a cool-ass design, and he could probably have pretty interesting gameplay. He's like a goth BDSM jester. And his stand can make you vomit razor blades. But I guess we're going with Prosciutto. I don't expect another Part 5 character to be added. That's weird. I would have really liked Nero. Also, all the characters in Part 5 are basically named after Italian foods. That's why his name is Prosciutto. Okay, so yeah, they're already... Let's do a count. Let me write the... I have to like count this out. So we got 10 characters we could add. Trish is in the game. Prosciutto is in the game. So we got 8 to work with. So if you look at the characters who they added in Eoch, Speedwagon, obviously, is a fan favorite. Speedwagon. Stroheim from Part 2, another like fairly popular character, favorite Nazi in fiction. The other characters are Endul. So Endul was added. The Geb guy, the blind guy with the water stand. I don't actually see Endul making it into the ASBR, because I feel like his playstyle is extremely it's like only really possible with Eyes of Heaven being an arena brawler. Because his whole deal is that he sits in one spot and he puts his cane to the ground and he listens into it, and he uses that to like direct his stand. So he's like a remote long range attacker, and that only really, I don't even know how that would work on a fighting game stage that's just like a much smaller space where you can't like hide out and camp, basically. So I don't actually see him making it in. I'll add him onto the list just because, and then we'll shave it off afterwards. Mariah is another fairly popular character I could see making it in. And Pet Shop. They were both in Eyes of Heaven. Let's see. The Part 4 characters they added. I can't believe that Shigechi was in the like original. I mean, he was DLC for All-Star Battle, but I can't fucking believe. Yukako? I think she has a good chance of getting in. She's pretty popular. People like Yukako. She's the original Yandere character. She's literally the original, like the origin of the trope. Let's see. Both Kiras are going to be in the... All the DLC is going to be included, so you don't have to worry about that. Part 4 Jotaro? I don't know. I don't even know if he plays differently. Maybe he has a slightly different moveset. I don't even know. Stone Ocean, obviously you're going to add Weather Report. I feel like when they were coming up with, okay, who do we add from Stone Ocean? They were like, okay, Jolene, Hermes, Pucci. That's like the obvious picks. But then they're like, okay. It was probably between Hermes and Foo Fighters. And then there was a decision between Honestly and Weather Report, and they just went with Honestly. Thankfully, they added Weather Report. Weather Report is so obvious. He's such an obvious pick in Eyes of Heaven. Or sorry, yeah, for when they added him in Eyes of Heaven. He's so fucking cool. He's so badass. If you're just an anime watcher, you kind of know who Weather Report is. He is way cooler. He gets cooler than he already is from what's been released at this point. So yeah, Weather Report. And then the Part 7 characters. The original Part 7, the original like the ASB's Part 7 lineup was a little minimal. It was Johnny, Gyro, and Funny Valentine. And they added Diego, good move, and Diego from Another World. Fuck Diego from Another World. I hate that fucking character. Okay. I'm gonna write down Diego, and just for posterity, I'm gonna write down Diego alt. Literally, Diego from Another World is almost ruined Part 7 for me. Part 7, which is so amazing, it's like one of the best pieces of fiction I've ever read. It's so fucking good. Diego almost ruined it for me from Another World. Regular Diego? Awesome. Love that guy. Badass. Diego from Another World? Ooh. Fuck that character. I hated his fuck, and he's comes like almost at the end, like right before, like at the penultimate beat of the story, and I'm like, why the fuck did we have? I have a whole rant about how much I hate alternate Diego, and just like, I'm gonna keep it in my back pocket. I'm gonna keep it in my back pocket for now. And then JoJolian, so All-Star Battle was in a bit of a awkward spot because in 2013, JoJolian had only been running for 2 years, which on a monthly schedule is like 24 chapters. And mind you, it only released in 2013, which means that it was in development from during like 2012. So the only character that they had to work with was Josuke. And then even by like 2015, when Eyes of Heaven came out, it still wasn't that much further along. You know, how was it? It was probably like, you know, maybe chapter 30 or 40 of JoJolion. Mind you, part 8 went to like 105 chapters. It ran from 2011 to 2021, I think. Yeah. I remember it ending in 2021. Like last year? Pretty sure? Yeah, it was 2021. So yeah, there's a lot of material, and it sucks because like they basically, I think that they looked at like the available characters that they had to add from part 8 at the time, and they made a bet, and then fortunately they bet wrong because they chose Joshu. And Joshu kind of sucks, and he ends up not having that much story relevance. He has kind of a neat stand, but it's barely utilized. And he just doesn't do very much. And they kind of like missed there's a lot of characters from part 8 actually that I think are badass and could make for really cool fighting game characters. So obviously now, I mean, the villain of part 8 wasn't even really clear until the last like 10 chapters. So like, yeah, understandable that they wouldn't include him. So obviously, if you're gonna make a JoJo game, you need to have every JoJo and every main villain. So let me just write down Joshu real quick for the ones that were added in, and then I'm gonna add characters who make sense. Okay, Toru, because he is the main villain, and he would probably be Toru would be really interesting as a fighting game character. I think that they could. I feel like he could almost work sort of like Zappa's triplet summon in Guilty Gear. So like if you don't know, Zappa is a character in like Guilty Gear, I think X and XX, where he's this guy who's possessed, and he has these three ghosts that he can summon at random, and which the one that he has out at the time has it changes his moves. So he has one of them, they're like these 3 little wispy kind of ghosts in like straitjackets. They're called the triplets. And he can throw them as projectiles, and if they hit the opponent, they latch onto the opponent character, and they will just cause it's basically like a curse. So bad luck events will happen to them. So like there's 3. There's a banana peel that can fly in from off screen that you can slip over. There's a flower pot that can fall on your head. And there's a golf ball that can come in from behind you and hit you. I've been hit so many goddamn times by that fucking golf ball. I hate Zappa. I feel like Toru would probably have... If I were to design a character, if I were to design a moveset for Toru, basically... if you don't care about spoilers, and you would allow me to explain, Toru's ability is, it's called Wonder of You, and it's essentially, it starts out as this, the first time you see it, it's this weird kind of robotic looking, I don't even know how to describe it, hang on. I need to like pull up Toru's like page. To like, because you literally only see it in one panel. Wonder of You. There's gotta be a picture of it. Come on. Is there not a picture of Wonder of You? Really? On the JoJo Wiki. I'm on JoJoWiki.com, by the way. Wonder of You. It has its own page. It's like this weird... robotic looking, yeah, there's a panel of it. It's like this it's got these like spindly thin limbs with like little like metal bands around it. It's cool. You can look it up. Wonder of You from JoJo. And and this very kind of uncanny. The eyes look like they look like sunflowers, and it's got these arm blades. Araki loves arm blades, and so it seems like, basically, wait, what the fuck? Okay, I'm reading the explanation. It was very. So what it does is it has like a base form where it's that kind of robot thing with the arm blades, and then there's, I guess, what you'd call head doctor form, which is where basically Toru can make it. He can make his stand appear as different. He can make it like shapeshift basically, and he uses it to impersonate the head doctor of a hospital that he works at. And so the head doctor form is basically its disguise, and what he does is it's basically his decoy. It's because the way that it works is that other people are able to see Wonder of You in its head doctor form, and then once you so it's so fucking confusing. It's so confusing to explain. Wonder of You's ability is that if you attempt to approach or pursue Toru, and this includes his stand, you will be brought under the effect of calamity. Essentially, you are cursed and bad things will happen to you, and the more that you try to the further you try to approach him, the more intense they will be. It's basically the universe and fate is going to start warping to prevent you from attacking or approaching Toru or his stand. So if I were to build a move set, I would probably choose more stretches. I would want it to be pardon me. I would have him start out with the base form where it's got the arm blades, and he has to he has to put the curse on you. He has to put the curse on you by approaching you. And I don't know, maybe it could be a counter thing where you have to attack him, or he could land a specific move to put it on you, and then it would basically go into head doctor form, and Toru would lose whatever combat abilities he gets from the basic form. I'd imagine that he could have the base form with the arm blades could have close range attacks and stuff like that. He could be a little more combat ready, but then once he puts the curse on you, it goes into head doctor form, and the head doctor cannot actually attack. He can't really do anything. He just causes calamity. So he puts this curse on you, and then there could be a myriad of bad luck events. The most intense would definitely be what happens near the end of part 8, where the wing of a plane falls off overhead and it starts just hurtling towards one of the characters, and she's sprinting towards Toru. That would probably be the strongest one. And then basically he would play a zoner where he loses all of his close range physical combat abilities, and instead I would actually probably give him the rock insects, because that's another thing that he does a lot, is he takes the little rock insects out, and they have these weird special abilities. So Toru basically, he puts he has to play in this kind of tricky way where he wants you to attack him, and then he'd be able to put the curse on you, or he's able to land a specific move to put the curse on you, and then once you're in the flow of calamity, he basically has to transition into a zoning archetype using the rock insects and stuff. And then you could maybe give it a time limit or something. I could see that. like just in order to balance it, you might make it so that if you actually hit Toru, it goes away. I'm not sure. And then like the closer you basically have to like weather the storm of approaching him. So yeah, that's how I would build that character. That's my concept. The other, let's see. So that's an obvious pick, is to add Toru. Other characters from Part 8 who I think would be dope would be Jobin and Damo. So Jobin's just a badass. I love him. His super should absolutely be, if not the heat storing ability that he has, which I don't think ever gets a specific name. If not that, then at least have the part where he gets Speed King to drive the car. There is a so Jobin's ability is he can create heat. He can create heat at certain points at his fingertip, and it seems really weak, and it is pretty weak, except he has a secret hidden ability where he can actually store. He can basically store heat that doesn't affect and then basically activate it. So there's a scene where, like, I think there's a guy who, like, steals... Who is it? It's that guy, the surfer guy. And he steals... He takes something of Jobin's. He, like, breaks into their house, steals something of Jobin's. And then he gets back to his house, and then he takes it out, and then suddenly his fingers start melting. And because, like, there's just... Jobin has basically, on his, like, valuables, he's basically stored so much heat inside of them that, like, once the guy takes it, he waits, like, a certain period of time, and then he activates it, and all the heat disperses into the dude's body, and he literally just melts over the course of, like, a minute. It's, like, super gory and, like, nasty. So, like, I'd imagine... Jobin doesn't really, like, create fire or anything. He's able to... so the thing with the car is just that he has Speed King sit in a car and then ignite the engine and drive the car. And it's fucking sick. I'd have to... I'm kind of like forgetting exactly what everything that he does over the course of the whole story. Oh, maybe the Beatles? Nah, he wouldn't use the Beatles. He would never endanger one of his beloved Beatles. Abilities, Speed King. It's capable of producing small points of intense heat. Oh, he has a move where at one point where he can just knock you out. He can cause a heat stroke. So that would be fun. Maybe that could be like a throw. Like just a hard knockdown throw. This power requires that he come into contact with whatever he wishes to apply heat to. As is the case with Josuke, Jobin offers him tissues to wipe his nose, only for the contact with the tissue to be the catalyst required for Jobin to increase the temperature inside of Josuke's head, causing the blood vessels to burst and giving him a nosebleed. I love the way that Speed King looks. So yeah. Heat accumulation. Speed King has the primary ability to store heat and temperature within a short localized point. The heat can be transferred to anyone who touches said point where the heat is stored. Speed King can only affect objects within 10 centimeters, so he has a really short range, but the heat persists. Since Jobin can heat sodium chloride enough to produce oxygen, it can be inferred that it can raise the temperature to at least 300 degrees Celsius. Holy shit. Yeah, he would be a cool, like, close range character, I think. Because he's so weak from range, but, like, if he gets you up close, he can do, like, a shit ton of damage. And then Damo, who's kind of the mid-boss of Part 8, sort of. Vitamin C, it's like the one where he leaves his hands. It's like this weird jester looking thing, and it leaves like handprints. It has like the bottom, it's like the shoulders. It's like a head and torso, but then below the shoulders, it just turns into like this big, like massive, like arms of like swingy, almost like paper arms. And he can leave the hands, like the handprints everywhere. And if you touch the handprint, you just start like, you turn into like jelly, basically. I think he could be like a cool, basically like a trap character, essentially. Because his whole deal is that he's physically weak, and he doesn't really have that many physical attacks. But if he can if he can properly set up his hands, then if he just touches you once, you just start like literally like your bones become jelly. There's like a horrifying scene where he throws like a fish into someone, and the fish just starts flopping around inside of them. It's like awful. Yeah, he's another character I'd like to see. So if you look at the numbers of characters who are, so we've got 8 characters to work with. Take out Andul, and Diego from Another World. That leaves us with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, literally 8. If you don't count Toru, Jobin, and Damo. I could see them leaving out Mariah and Pet Shop. I could see them leaving out Mariah and Pet Shop. Maybe Pet Shop would be more contentious, but the other ones are pretty obvious. Speedwagon, Stroheim, Yukako, Weather Report, Diego. Joshu's the only one that's like weird. Like, do they really want to keep him? They could just replace him with Toru? I have no idea. If I did have to pick one character, it would be Toru from Part 8, just because he's the villain and it makes the most sense to like round the cast out. That's my... Other than that, I mean, like, honestly, both games have like pretty strong rosters. Besides Shigechi. Pretty strong rosters. I don't think anyone's going to be bummed that if Joshu sits this one out. Yeah, that's where I see that going. Wait, was there oh yeah, so the other like kind of significant thing about this re-release, or refresh as I've been calling it, is that it's going to have the anime voice cast. So that's cool. All-Star Battle, when I think when it was released, I think it was released as Part 3 was coming out, so the Part 3 voice cast was already in it. But after that, everyone else was just original, including up to Eyes of Heaven, because by the time Eyes of Heaven was out, Part 6 had not actually released. Part 6 was in 2016, so that was a year after EOH. Right? Yeah, 2015. So, the Part 4, 5, and 6 voice cast is not in those games. And Josuke is really weird. It's really weird hearing Josuke in those games because the voice actor really... Jeez, pardon me. He really leans into the kind of punk Yankee aspect of like Josuke's design and like his character, which is a little funny just because like Josuke is generally known as being like one of the friendliest JoJos. I think Araki even said that, like, there was an interview where he said that Josuke was his favorite to write because he basically wrote him to be like a friend. He wrote him to be everyone's friend. He's the friend you love to have. And so, like, when you hear, like, in Eyes of Heaven, like, the story mode, when he goes, like, he's like, he's really leading into those, like, rolling those R's. It's just funny. So yeah, new voice lines. I really like, the whole cast. I like the whole... they've done a great job casting everyone for the anime. Hearing Farou's eye as Jolene's going to be sick, and that was kind of what they focused on in the trailer for ASBR. And yeah, I don't know. I'm interested. There's a lot of. I'll get it, even if it doesn't have a rollback, just because I like JoJo. I wonder if there's anything. I guess, let's see. So the JoJo wiki does have some details, because there's stuff that I've missed. There's a lot of like weird, especially like there's a bunch of details with that I kind of missed, just from like, oh, this thing's on the website, this thing got leaked, this thing was only in Japanese. So this is the first time I'm actually like looking at like a summary of all the info. So, oh yeah, so they did do that. So the color palettes have kind of been changed to be closer to the anime compared to what they were in the original All-Star Battle. Which basically means, let's see. I generally like most of the color palettes in All-Star Battle. Green Avdol is weird. Green and pink honestly looks really ugly. Outside of, I'm sure, the context. I know, I feel like I remember which like cover that color palette was taken from, but I'm not a fan of it on its own. I think it's kind of garish. Same thing with like, oh god, Gyro and Johnny's in their base color palettes in Eyes of Heaven are so ugly looking out of context. They're so bad looking. The manga, so the ones in Eyes of Heaven are actually pretty like good. Like they're not garish very much. Like that's what the colored manga chose to go with. Like oh, Johnny's, it's like usually like either white and blue or blue and pink. And then Gyro, usually he wears like brown, blue, purple, like not like a lot of regular colors to balance, like more mild colors. Eyes of Heaven, it's like Johnny's in bright green and like red, and Gyro is in like electric blue and like seafoam green and violet with orange, and it's so all over the place. Again, I vaguely remember which one. I think it's taken from that one really nice looking cover from Part 7 where Gyro is like, he's like covered in snow, and he's like, there's like the snow building up on his hat. But so like, yeah, it looks great there, but like out of context, it just it's very ugly. So let's see, color palette changes. Yeah, more in line with the anime generally had, they tried to choose color palettes that for the anime that just looked a little, because again, like those color palettes, the crazy colors that you would see were picked specifically for like the drawings that they were a part of. So when you just throw those characters into like normal looking environments, it's awful. It's like eye searing. So the anime tried to pick more down to earth color palettes. Good looking. I really like all the color choices that the anime went with. Except for green Fugo. I prefer red Fugo always. Green Fugo is fine, but I like red Fugo because he's supposed to be a strawberry. His suit is supposed to resemble like a strawberry's colors. Like the little holes that are cut out of it, it's supposed to be like seeds. It's supposed to look, because like his skin tone underneath, it's supposed to look like the seeds. Yeah, just generally better looking color palettes across the board. The second thing is let's see. An additional gameplay mechanic named Support Attack allows players to swap between two characters during a match. Though the specific mechanics have not been revealed, promotional material demonstrates that the character in reserve can jump into the match at almost any time, and that both characters are capable of attacking simultaneously. Gameplay changes. So improved game speed. Shorten the time it takes to launch an attack, resulting in speedier battles compared to the previous work. So basically just less startup on attacks. That's cool. Added hit stop. So yeah, if you aren't aware, hit stop is just when you strike an opponent, even sometimes on block, there's a bit of just a pause to just sell the impact of the hit, like bah, 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 bah. And usually like the heavier the attack, the longer the hit stun. Even like Monster Hunter uses it because it sells the hit basically. Added input buffer. Okay, that's cool. Special move commands can be input even with simple commands. Oh, okay. So they just eased up a bit on like diagonals for special inputs. So if you do a quarter circle, you don't have to hit like the down forward part. You can just go down and then forward. Okay, so I don't know if there's I don't think there's half circles in this game, but that would make that easier. Attack adjustments. And what it says here is changed the behaviors and powers of some techniques. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but it sounds like a rebalancing. The power of great heat attacks, which I think are supers, changes depending on the amount of gauges accumulated and how many gauges are consumed. Okay, so looks like you can spend more meter to make your super deal more damage. Okay then. Game modes looks like basically the same. Option mode. Is options a mode? I love options mode. It's such a funny way to describe it. Let's see. All 12 stages from the original All-Star Battle are slated to return. However, promotional stages show that additional stages have been added, including several from Eyes of Heaven. Oh. I didn't even see that. Which ones would that be? Oh, the Cape Canaveral, it looks like. Cape Canaveral. I don't remember. I don't know. Let me look at the fucking original stages. Original stages from the game. Was Cape Canaveral in there? Yeah, it was. Okay. So what are the new stages? Looks like the same ones. Okay. Looks like all the okay. Looks like the wiki doesn't go into specifics about which one are new. Let's see. The stage hazard mechanic is also planned to make a return with new stage hazards added to the game's stages. Game's new stages. Oh, neat. So yeah, so All-Star Battle is like a weird hybrid where it's like it plays kind of like a 2D fighter, but there's like sidestepping. So it's like a 3D fight. It's like a weird. It's not quite Tekken or Virtua Fighter, but there is sidestepping. Yeah, it's neat, and there's also like stage hazards. So like there'll be a little like red warning thing on the ground. Like if you step in there, it'll trigger a thing. Or every so often, there's like the chariot. There's like I think a part 2 stage is like the chariot race scene. And so like every so often, the chariots will like Wamu will just run by on a chariot. New stages. It does say Cairo Bridge. Oh, sweet. Classic JoJo setting. Boyoyoing Cape. So that's from part 4. The Coliseum from part 5. Green Dolphin Street Farm. I forget what that looks like. And the Rocky Mountains Village from Steel Ball Run. Oh, great. Dinosaur Village. Cool. Denotes the stage. Oh. Oh, Green Dolphin Street Farm is a new stage. Oh, it's they're making brand new stages. Wow, okay. Nice. Well, the Cairo Bridge stage did appear in Eyes of Heaven. It was exclusive to the story mode battle between Jotaro and Dio. Yeah, I remember like the Cairo Bridge is like kind of just like one small little thing for like a story mode bit. It's not like the full, because the Eyes of Heaven stages are significantly larger than the ASB ones, naturally. So it actually is pretty smart and resourceful to like, oh, we have this stage that's smaller already. Let's throw that in. So that's cool. Dope. I'm actually looking forward to this, just as a pure JoJo fan. This will probably be fun to play with my friends. And, wait, what? Purple Haze feedback? Purple Haze is Purple Haze distortion and... Oh, okay. Purple Haze distortion as DLC in All-Star Battle? What? Does he have, like, a distortion? Does he have Purple Haze? Okay, so Fugo's DLC in All-Star Battle. And he has Purple Haze and Purple Haze distortion. Okay, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize he had, like, that ability as well. Okay. Anyway, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That's gonna be fun. I think they said, what's the release date? Like, am I gonna sign up for the mailing list? What's the release date? Fall 2022, so actually kind of soon, after the summer. I'm looking forward. I'll probably talk about it on this podcast. Let's see, what's the last thing I want to talk about? Oh, I want to talk about Ion Fury. So, I beat a medieval. My final thoughts on it are, I played it on hard, and I thought it was a little too easy. Maybe I should have played it on evil. You know? Who knows, maybe I would have had a better time. But on hard, I found it just a little too, I don't know, a little too easy to kind of burn through. I did play the bonus, like, level on evil, and it was also pretty easy, so I don't know. It is cool. I think it's a really good game. I just thought it was a little easy. So I moved on to Ion Fury, which is a game that was made entirely in the build engine. And, you wouldn't know it. You would think that it's its own thing, but no, it is made in the build engine, just incredibly upgraded. First of all, visually, the game looks amazing. It's basically, it's a boomer shooter, again, that is based in like a cyberpunk city. It's a cyberpunk setting, and you're a cop, and she's got to take down... Actually, I think the character's named Bombshell? Who was from like a previous 3D Realms game or something that kind of flopped, and then they just repurposed the character into this game. And let me look up that game. Bombshell game. Yeah, it was a 3D Realms published game. Oh, Andrew Holsholt was to the music. Of course he did. Yeah, I remember that game. Like, I heard it kind of sucked. But the main character was kind of neat. So they just took her and they were like, what if she was a future cop in cyberpunk world? And the levels are insanely detailed. They are so dense with little touches and little things, you know? Little animations. It's so gorgeous. Like, the levels are incredibly dense. And, let's see, what do I go over? Again, it's, like, hard to talk about these games just because it's, like, mostly gameplay. It's just okay, so what I have to say about Ion Fury, compared to a medieval, is that I am playing it on, I think the difficulty is, like, Ultra Viscera, which I think is the second to last hardest difficulty. And it's, you know, it abbreviates to UV, like Ultra Violence, so I was like, hey, might as well. It's definitely scratching the itch I had for difficulty. I like it when a shooter makes me kind of like push myself. I'm not looking for like just to die a bunch, like that's not what I find enjoyable. What I find enjoyable is when the game is difficult, and difficult in a way where I feel like I need to actually push myself to be better at the game. And like feeling like I've mastered the combat and the movement and the weapons, and that I understand the enemies, the environment, the situation, that I can actually like build a plan around it and react and switch weapons on the fly, is really what's exciting to me. the whole time being at risk of dying. That's what's exciting. And like pulling, it's like, it could be frustrating at first, but when you pull it off and you clear a room or you clear a section, it's so satisfying. I feel like I've like actually gotten better at it, at the game. And I've been enjoying that aspect of it, that part of the experience that it's been giving me. I have had to take a few rage breaks. I don't rage quit. I take rage breaks. I don't usually rage very much when I play games, especially single-player games. But sometimes you die, you lose a lot of progress, and what happens is I'll feel it for like a second, and then I just swallow my anger. I swallow whatever I was gonna say. I just breathe out, and then I just Alt-tab away, and I just go take a break for a second. And then in maybe 20, 30 minutes, I might feel better, however long it takes me. And I'm like, okay, I can get back to the game. And I've been doing that, and that's what's been sustaining me through the fire and the flames. The weapons feel great. The sound design is really amazing on them. It's just really crunchy, cracky sound effects. I don't know how else to describe it. Functionally, they're really cool. The main, like the starting pistol, it has like 18 bullets in it. And it has an alt fire that is basically like a lock-on, and then you hold down alt fire, and then your cursor has a little like, it starts circling, and if you mouse over enemies, they'll get a little like death marker over their head, and then when you release it, there's like a time, you have like 5 seconds or something to like lock onto as many enemies as you want, and then you release it, and you'll just like auto track shoot all of them. Just bah, 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 bah. It's really cool. It's a fun thing to take out like 2 or 3 enemies like that. That's really fun. The shotgun is really cool. It's like a triple-barreled shotgun, like from Shadow Warrior. It works surprisingly well at long range. Like the scatter isn't actually very far, and it has an alt fire that turns it into a grenade launcher, which is great. There are double Uzis. There are like very close to like, it is a very like Shadow Warrior feeling arsenal in certain ways. You get like double machine guns, which have incendiary rounds. It's double machine guns that light people on fire. Awesome. And at the point that I'm at, I've just beaten the first zone, and which takes a lot longer than I was expecting. And I just got it's like the crossbow or whatever. It's a fun weapon. It's just a crossbow that shoots like kind of more precision bolts. And let's see what else. Oh, the bombs. There's bomb bowling. So basically the bombs are, you can roll them across the floor, and then you can direct them with your mouse, which is cool. And then there's a weapon that I haven't gotten very many of, but it's these little like throwable discs. They're like grenade frisbees. Those are fun to use. They're like mines that you can throw out as like projectiles, and then if they hit the ground, they just stay on the ground as like proximity mines. It's pretty cool. The game is not afraid to put you in unfair situations where it's like, okay, you're in a big open area with a bunch of different like a lot of variation in like heights. There's like containers over here, and there's like a staircase, there's ladders. It's like a big open area where you can go up and down, and there's just enemies everywhere, and they're placed in situations that are made to like screw you over. And it puts you in the underdog position. So like that's what I like about that idea of like pushing yourself to like master the encounter, is that you feel like the game puts you in a situation where you're the underdog, and then learning and pushing yourself to overcome that challenge is so satisfying. Like it feels so rewarding and fulfilling, I would say, when you finally like taken everyone out, and you're like, damn, I did it. I'm good at this game. It's good. It's good. It is also very dingy and dark. I mean, it's a cyberpunk styled game. It's got that aesthetic going on. It has the similar. So the protagonist, I think her name is Bombshell. She talks. She's like a classic build protagonist. She talks a lot, not too much, I would say. She's fine. She's cool. She doesn't have like the most personality, but she's cool. She works for what the game is, and the level design is very intricate. On top of the environments just being very like highly detailed and having a really intense, like the lighting effects are great. The atmosphere that provides is really nice. But then in addition to that, the level design does a pretty good job of keeping you moving forward. There were a few points where I was like, okay, where do I go now? What do I do? Where do I go? And you have to do a little bit of exploring. The secrets are incredible. There's every level has like 10 secrets, or every section has like 10 secrets, and they're all really well hidden. I have not found, I think I've only found like maybe one or two out of like 20 or 30, it feels like at this point. Like, it's ridiculous how many secrets there are and how well they're hidden. You'd think, you're like, there can't be that much to this level, but I guess there is. What else? I'm just really enjoying it. It's a good-ass game. It's a good-ass boomer shooter. And if you're interested in it, I would recommend it highly. I'm running close. Wait, hang on. I have to. Sometimes thoughts come to me, like 5 minutes after I'm done recording something. I don't remember anything specifically in the settings. Oh, turn on VSync. There's a weird screen tearing issue. Other than that, yeah, that's it. I think that's it. I did jack up the FOV a little bit. I think to like 100 something. That helped. That felt a little more comfortable. Other than that, I haven't felt the need to even remap any keys. So that's cool. The gunplay feels great. Moving and shooting feels really good. The music is cool. It's just like a thumpy cyberpunk type thing. The enemies are pretty well designed. Ranging in difficulty, kind of forcing you to use different weapons. And it's that classic non-orthogonal unit differentiation, which I usually refer to as chess piece enemy design, which is just different enemies serve different functions. That's it. Enemies are differentiated based off of the function that they serve within the game's design. Doom is like the classic example of that, because every enemy requires you to use like kind of a different strategy and a different approach. They add different things to the mix and the ways that you mix and match the enemies, and which environments you mix and match them in, how many changes it gives. That's where all like the spice comes from. That's why you can still make Doom. That's why there's still Doom, mods coming out 20, 30 years later, and it's still fresh. You're still getting fresh combat encounters because there's just such a almost limitless potential for like how you can design just a fight Well, I would talk for about 2.5 hours. The throat's tired, and I gotta render this out and upload it. So, yeah, if you've been watching this far, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have a question, leave it in the comments below, but you should phrase it in the form of a question, because I'm not just gonna read your thoughts out loud. Thank you so much for watching. We're gonna be the next few videos. We're gonna be wrapping up Game Fan and the whole Die Hard series. So that's gonna be my focus. I wanted to take just a little break from it for like a video, just so that I could, if I do the same thing just consistently, and I'm like on the same idea for like an extended period of time, I just kind of get bored and restless. So yeah, that's why I took the break to do the Brad Stallion video. But now I feel kind of refreshed, and I want to just full speed ahead finish Game Fan. So that's what you can look forward to that in the next few weeks. Yeah. Might be a delay because I have something coming up next week. Next week? Yeah, next week. But yeah, that's our plan. So it might be there might be like a 3-week gap between uploads. Not quite sure yet, but I have something next week that might impede my ability to do. It's like going to be for like a few days that you will hear about, that I don't want to spoil just yet. I think it's going to be fun to talk about. It's going to be on this podcast, but yeah, I'm going to be doing something. Anyway, later, Gators.